Hey, what's up? Today, I'm going to show you how I change strings, or one of the methods I use to change strings, on a simple Tune-O-Matic bridge like this, one of the easiest you can come across. And this is really a simple thing and very basic, but that's for people who have done it once or more, you know? Maybe you've never done it before. Maybe you've had a guitar laying around for 2-3 years. You know it needs new strings. Maybe it's got a couple busted ones, or you can just tell they're old, but you're afraid to do it because you've never seen it done. So if that's the case, you're in the right place, and I'd love to show you just the simple techniques that I've developed and used for many, many years that have proven tried and true. So the best thing about a Tune-O-Matic bridge here, as opposed to something like a floating tremolo like a Floyd, is that it's just easy. This is a string through body design, so the string feeds back in. There's the ball end of the string. We'll show that closely and talk about that more, but the ball end of the string just goes through the back of the guitar and comes right out here, across the bridge and the saddles, over the nut, and into the tuners there. This should be pretty quick, and I just want to give you the confidence that you may need if, like I said, if you've never done this before or have any questions about it and been wondering. This is a beautiful ESP E2 M1, and we're going to put these DR high beams on here. These are 11 to 52, my gauge of choice, and we're going to tune this one to drop C, also my tuning of choice. But it doesn't matter what strings you use, what gauge you use, what tuning you use, all the same principles will apply. You'll use the exact same process, except you'll tune to whatever you want to tune to, and you use whatever strings you'll want to use. So there are a few different ways that I go about this. Sometimes I take off all the strings at once, and that allows me to get into the nitty-gritty under the strings. Another cool tool here, the Nomad music tool, like this. I talk about it every chance I get, because if you do have the strings on, let's say you don't even need to change strings, but want to clean your guitar, you can get under there like this. It's got this cool brush on here to get things away. Comes with a second tool, so you can get underneath, up here, just clean all the things you want to clean that are hard to get to with the strings on. And I've decided for this guitar, we're going to use the method of just changing one string at a time. So that's not going to give me the opportunity to get underneath everything, and that's why a tool like the Nomad comes in handy. But this guitar is super clean right now. In fact, I haven't even played it since its last string change, but I decided I wanted to go with these DRs on it and do another setup, and this was a perfect opportunity. So let's get into it. We're just going to start with the 6th string, go one by one all the way down. And before you know it, we'll be done. We'll give it a strum, see how it sounds. So this DR high beams, one thing I notice about them is that you see here we got 11, 13 from high to low, 20 wound, I like, 30, 42, and then this one's always flipped around for some reason. That's the one thing I noticed. But you want to make sure you keep these in order, and then I take this whole pack and I flip it over like that on its back, and each time I grab it, I know which one it is. This is the 6th string, the next one's going to be the 5th string, and so on. If you mix them up, you got to make sure you pay attention to everything that's going on there. So what we're going to do is loosen and remove the 6th string here and replace it. Tools we're going to need: string winder, but not necessary. Wire cutters, pretty darn necessary. I suppose you may be able to complete a job like this without, but won't be nearly as easy or as clean. So some wire cutters are essential. And what we're gonna do is just start by loosening the 6th string here. Also, first thing I want to just say is note the orientation of the strings and how they're aligned along the tuners here. This is what's called a reverse headstock, and all the strings are on the left side, wrapping clockwise around the tuning pegs. See that? They're all on the left side and then wrapped around that way, not the other way. You don't want to mismatch them. You don't want one going this way and then another one going around that way. And there are different headstocks. You know, you got the ones like this where there's 3 on each side, like a Les Paul, and you know that'll be your 6, 5, and 4, 3, 2, 1. And in that case, these will wrap around clockwise on the treble side. These will wrap around counterclockwise on the bass side. But if you have a regular headstock like this, they're all going to go the same way, and this happens to be a reverse, so they're on the left side there. You wouldn't really want to do it on the right. I suppose you could, but I don't know. I'm just going to go with this. This is what I've been doing forever, and usually all my reverse headstocks are set up. So we're going to loosen this. One other variable about this particular guitar is that it has what's called locking tuners. So there's this knob or dial down here I can loosen and tighten. And what that does is, as I'm loosening and tightening that, is it's moving a peg vertically inside the tuner in that little hole there, which clamps down on the string. So if you picture it like this, see, here's your tuning knob. So there's your tuning knob. It has a little hole in it, and the string goes through, and it could just move around in that hole. But when you tighten the locking tuner at the bottom, it sends a peg up, which holds that string in place. It clamps it in there. It just makes it easier and faster for changing strings, but it's totally unnecessary. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just do a couple of these using the locking method, and then I'll do a couple using the regular method if you don't have locking tuners, and show you how I do that. So that's out of there. Right now my locking tuner is still loose. So that means that peg that clamps the string in is down, so I should be able to put a string in there freely. Then I'll just lock it up and tune it, and we'll be good to go. So we can remove this, and rather than pulling this bent end here through that hole, I'm just gonna snip it off. Got my garbage can right here next to me, which I recommend. Clean and tidy work area. And then this will just pull out the back. As I pull it out, you'll see that the ball end was through there. And as we stick the string through, so this is the 6-string hole here, and as we flip it over, it's gonna be the furthest one from me because we turned it over, and we're gonna put the string through. And as we pull it through, the ball gets stuck there on the back side, and that's how it remains in place, and as we'll feed it through. So let's break out our 6-string. Again, this is a 52 gauge. So just like I said, here's the hole we're gonna wanna come out with. It's closest to me now, but as I flip it over, it's furthest from me. Just feed that through. That's cool. We're gonna make sure that it's sitting nicely where it should be in our saddle, in that little groove in the saddle there. It's kind of irrelevant at this point because it's loose, it's gonna move around anyways, but we ultimately wanna make sure as we start putting tension on the string that it is sitting in there seated properly. A lot of the time you get it all set up and you realize it's over to the side like that or something, like, so just something to pay attention to. Now, I always like to have my hole, my tuning peg hole facing me, just makes it easier so I can just go straight in rather than it facing that way and having to feed it around that way. I'm also keeping in mind that we're going to, in this case, wrap clockwise. So I'm gonna come through. If it doesn't go through right away, maybe you need to loosen that tuner, that locking tuner just a tiny bit more to get that peg completely out of the way. Slides in nicely. And with the locking tuner, it's as easy as just lining it in the nut there, making sure I'm in my saddle. It's still a tiny bit loose, but I got enough tension where it isn't gonna fall out of there. I'm gonna bend this up just so it's kind of gonna be out of the way. And I'm gonna lock down my locking tuner. And it's all set. That thing is in there. We don't have to wrap around or worry about anything. The clamp is holding it in there. Now I can tune this up. Remember, I'm gonna go, I want that wrap to be clockwise. At this point, you don't need to be tuning the whole way you go, but I do find that it's easier if I tune and stretch as I go. By the time I get to the first string, the guitar is pretty much ready to go and just in tune. Talk more about that as we go. So I got my tuner set up here, volume up. I'm currently at a C there. I want to be at C. In drop C tuning, we're at C, G, C, F, A, D, low to high. At this point now, I'm gonna stretch out the string because it needs to stretch, it wants to stretch. This will drop in tuning over time. Like if I were to leave it, until tomorrow, it would be a lot lower in pitch. If I start playing it, it's gonna lose pitch because it needs to be stretched out. So the technique for that is I'm going to put pressure down here. I'm gonna hold it right down by the saddle. I'm pushing there fairly hard. And then I'm gonna pull up like this with a couple fingers. So I go under the string, pull up, and push down with my thumb. And I'm creating, and I slide it down. This hand remains here the entire time. The reason for this is so as I'm pulling up like this, it doesn't pop out of the saddle or damage the saddle in any way because I'm just yanking it and stuff. So I'm just holding it in place, anchoring it there, and going along the length of the string. I'm just pulling up, give me in here even a little bit of stretch. Now we're gonna see it was at a C, way lower, G sharp. So now, get up to C, again, just in the ballpark, doesn't have to be exact. Ballpark, we're gonna do that again, and you'll see it's gonna drop again. But each time we do this, it's gonna drop a little bit less because we're putting the stretch on. Now we're at a B, so see a lot less than G sharp. We'll do it again, and every time the discrepancy will be less and less. Look there we are to see. In fact, even a little bit sharp. Okay, so it just needs to be in the ballpark, and then I'm going to do that same thing to the fifth one. And each string I do, I'm going to go back and do the sixth again. When I get to the fourth, I'm going to do the fifth again. I'm going to keep stretching as I go, so we'll see that. Remember, this is up right here, just so it's out of the way. I like to cut them off as a last step, just in case something goes wrong. Maybe I need to remove the string and reinstall it because I don't know, got wrapped around another string or just did something wrong. So it's just a little fail-safe thing. I don't cut these off until the very end. You can if you want to, but I've gotten in trouble before and had to just get a whole new string because I needed to remove it or for some reason and didn't have any play there. I didn't have any slack, but I do this and I still have some slack. Okay, let's get into the fifth string here. So I'm just gonna loosen it. Little tip, as you're loosening it, just leave the hole facing you, over here like I was talking about, and then it's ready to go. Loosen the locking tuner, pull it out, give it a snip. Work that out the back. Okay. Grab our fifth string, make sure it's 42, good. So going in here, our fifth string slot, and so that's gonna be the second furthest from us when we turn that over. Sometimes you gotta just find where it wants to go. There we go. Doesn't always go through super easy. Once it makes its way, then it's easy. But again, making sure we're where the saddle we need to be. Now, in this case, I'm going to demonstrate a traditional wrap if we weren't going to use just the locking method where I put it through there, lock it down, and it's ready to go. So in this case, what I'm going to do is, remember, knowing that I want to stay to the left of the tuner to start, and I'm going to be wrapping clockwise. So I'm going to go like this, hold it down so it doesn't pop up. I'm going to go around once, and then through the hole and over that string that we just wrapped around. Okay, like that. If I had gone under the string, then when I go to tighten it, it just pops off. See? So again, around, holding it down so that when I go through, I'm on top of that wrap. See that? On top of it. Pull it through, and then we're good. And I've got myself a little bit of slack here because I want to have some wrap. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to push down. I'm still holding this up with these two fingers like this, my index and ring and middle. And then with my index finger, I'm going to push down at the headstock and keep that down low. And that's going to give me clean wraps. If it was up like this and I start wrapping, it might wrap from the top or just get kind of mumbo jumbo. So I keep this down like this, give that a nice little tug. And now when I go to wrap, I'm going to get clean wraps. And this is if I didn't have locking tuners. Okay, and as I'm going, you'll see that it drops closer to the fretboard. Came out of the saddle there, so I'm going to loosen just a tiny bit, get that back in the saddle. I'm sorry, in the nut, but I'm going to check my saddle. That's what I was thinking about. And then, oh, cool. Okay, so we want this to be a G. Actually, yep. Cool. Now I'm just going to lock down my locking tuner. I didn't take advantage of the locking tuner because I was showing you the wrap method, but I'm still going to lock it down, and it's still locked down. Okay, so start stretching. Remember, hand down here, fingers underneath, pushing down with my thumb. Stretch that bad boy out. Good. We're going to see that it's dropped from a G to a F. Back up to G. One more time. Do the sixth string again. Like I said, I always go back and do all the ones I've already put on there. It's just going to make the whole thing, my life, easier at the end. It'll be in tune and ready to play. So we have the sixth and the fifth. I'm going to tune both those again and move on to the fourth. Okay, 2 down, 4 to go. I'm doing that, leaving a hole facing me. Unlike my locking tuner. String out, cut, pull. Another example of why it's so important to stretch, just as an example, when Kamira was recording our Age of Hell record, I was changing strings on my Floyd-equipped guitars after every song we'd record. So, you know, he'd sit and work on a song, do all the tracking. Hold on, I'll get back to that in a second. Just want to show you, so I'm going to go through the whole. Don't really need much slack, but I'm making sure that we're seated in the nut, in the saddle pretty well. Bend that up, lock down my locking tuner. Easy. Still gonna just put my finger here as I tighten this up, going clockwise. So what I was saying is, with the Kamira's Age of Hell record, I was changing strings every song. You know, you work on the song for a couple hours, finish it off, then I go change strings. But, and I needed to do that pretty quick, be ready for the next song. So all the stretching would make the guitar ready to track right away, whereas otherwise it would just keep losing tuning. The guitar gets its tuning best, I think, if you let it sit for a night, but a lot of time you can't do that. If you're out on the road touring, you change your strings, you know, your techs change your strings early in the day, and they need to be ready for the show that night. If they're constantly dropping tuning because the strings weren't properly stretched out to the absolute stretching point for that night, then you're gonna have tuning problems. So it's just a great idea to get a head start on that and give yourself the best chances of staying in tune. Cool. Do the 6th again, 5th again, 4th again. This guitar's a little bit finicky, I can tell. It's like sharpening at times where I would think that it would be flattening, but oh well, it'll come together in the end, and all those discrepancies, like I keep saying, will become less and less as we get it worked in, get it settled. Okay. Okay, this is a 20 wound. I like a wound G string. I just think they feel faster for tremolo picking. Come on. Come on. Oh, you're there somewhere. All right. The table's getting messy here. Okay, I'm just gonna show you another example, just if you wanna see it one more time. If I were to wrap, I would go around to the left, making sure we're looking good. We'll go around to the left once. You gotta kinda manipulate the string's direction so that it doesn't pop up. So I'm gonna hold that down as best I can. Wrap around, and when I go through the hole, I wanna be on top of that wrap that I just did. Pull it through, give myself some slack like this. That might be too much, so I'm gonna pull. Because if you have too much here, if it's this high, just go ahead and pull on this side. Give yourself less slack. Knowing exactly how much is an experience thing, but something like that is about good. Push down here to get a clean wrap, and I would just start wrapping. But I am gonna continue with the just the method I talked about with the locking tuner. So I'm gonna redo this. Come on, buddy. Right, it probably wasn't even necessary. I probably just could have clamped down, but just gonna keep it clean. See how that would have been in there, but because you need less string when you're using the locking tuner. Lock down, bent up, And I bend them up just to kind of keep them out of the way as best as possible. Even though this one's being a bitch. All right. Looking for an F. Good. Okay, I see I was out of that little groove in the saddle there a little bit, but I can just slide it back. Typically want to maybe loosen it before you did a slide like that, but hey, I did it. Okay, F. Down to E there, so back up to F. And the thinner strings require less stretching, which is nice. Good. Get my other guys. And all this starts to go fast, you know, especially once you get the hang of it. Your hands get used to what they're supposed to be doing, all that good stuff. Okay. Two more to go. Okay, grab our 13. These things don't want to make it easy for me to find how to get that through there. Okay. So the locking tuners just make it nice. You can just lock down. Don't have to worry about the wrap. Bend up. Okay. Last one. This is an 11. There we go. That was an easy one. Okay. Okay, we're looking good. Okay, at this point, I can cut all these off now because everything went well. What I'll do is I'll bend them all down as best as I can with my fingers so they're not sticking up when you cut them off and poke yourself. Okay, then I'll get kind of as close as I can there, being careful not to cut the actual string that you need, which I've done many times. Not paying attention or doing it in a dark environment. And I'll also kind of go back and just carefully use my wire cutters to just kind of push them down if I can. Okay. See all this dust and, I don't know, skin collecting here, so this is a good time to break out the Nomad. I believe a clean guitar is a happy guitar, creates inspiration. If your guitar is playing well, in tune, feeling good, you write better riffs, I promise. Let me rephrase that. I don't know about better riffs, but some people may. I'm sure there are some crust punk guys who would disagree. But we're looking good there. Now, we're going to label it so we know when we changed these strings and what we used, because let's face it, I'm sure a lot of you guys out there change your strings only when you absolutely have to, like a string breaks or something, or I don't know, maybe every 4 years or something like that. But sometimes you want to know, when was the last time I changed these strings? Especially if you have multiple guitars you're using. You want to know when they were changed last, what brand they were, what gauge they were. If you got multiple guitars, multiple tunings, multiple all sorts of stuff or whatever, how are you going to know exactly what's on there? So I just think it's a good system. So I put a little guy on there, and I am going to write today's date, which is 6/30/25, and then I used DR 11 through 52. Now I know. Okay. Just a little wipe down, but it's still looking good, except for these satin finishes that have these permanent fingerprint marks and stuff. Nothing I can do about that. Okay, let's give it one more tune. We'll give it a strum. There's definitely some more things that I'm going to look at after this. I'm going to look at, well, first I want to feel it, feel what it plays like. But just doing this right now in the bench position, not in the playing position, I can tell I'm getting some buzz here. And these strings are pretty low. The action is very low right now. And the neck is 100% dead straight. So I'm probably going to end up giving that a little bit of relief. I'm also going to check the intonation now that I've changed strings. Definitely brand and perhaps tuning. I don't know what was on here before, as a matter of fact. So I'm not going to do that in this video because I don't want to overwhelm you, but I have a full playlist. You can check out in the description my guitar maintenance tutorials. I have everything in there. Intonation, action, truss rod adjustments, Floyd Rose string changes, Strat style bridge string changes, Evertune, anything you can think of about guitar maintenance, I got you covered. If you're interested in the way I do it. There's a lot of great videos out there. And this is just the way I do it. But I like to be thorough and detailed. And the more you know about what's going on with your guitar, the better you can handle any situation. So let's go ahead and give this a strum. So the action feels fantastic. Excuse me, but it might be a little low. Yeah. I'm gonna adjust that truss rod a tiny bit. But I will leave those videos linked for you right here so you can check out intonation and truss rod if you're interested, or like I said, my maintenance series playlist. So please go ahead and check those out if you're interested in learning more. I'd love to just keep going and go through all this kind of stuff, but this video just had a specific point here and we've made it. So I appreciate everybody watching. I'm Rob Arnold. Thanks so much. Make sure you check out my amazing Patreon community if you want to get a little closer and just, just dig into some more, Also, my guitar instructional DVD shipping worldwide right now with 10 free of my custom guitar picks and free shipping, so check those out. Again, thanks so much for watching. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so you never miss a video, as well as a like if you liked the video. If you thought it was helpful, go ahead and let me know, leave a comment, all right? Cheers.